Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, on the subject of crucifixion, the Muslim is told in no uncertain terms in the Holy Quran, the last and final revelation of God, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ, that they didn't kill him, nor did they crucify him. وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُ, but it was made to appear to them so. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَقٍّ مِّنْهُمْ, and those who dispute therein are full of doubts. مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ, they have no certain knowledge. إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ, they only follow conjecture, guesswork. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا, for of a surety they killed him not. I ask you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, could anyone have been more explicit, more emphatic, more dogmatic, more uncompromising than this in rejecting the dogma of a faith? The answer is impossible. The only one who could would be the all-knowing, omniscient Lord of the universe. The Muslim believes this authoritative statement from the Holy Quran as of God. He says, my Lord saith, Amanna Saddaqna, we believe and we affirm. So he asks no questions and he seeks no proof. But the Christian, since his faith depends upon this one and only most important thing as is claimed, the gallant St. Paul, quoted again and again by Brother Paul himself, quoting his namesake, Paul said this and Paul said that. Let me quote this Paul on this important issue. I quote, and if Christ be not risen, meaning from the dead, then is our preaching vain, useless. In the words of Josh McDowell, a Christian missionary from America, he says, garbage, rubbish. If Christ is not risen from the dead, then our preaching is vain, useless, and your faith is also vain, useless. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 14. Now it is Paul. Little wonder that Paul happens to be the real founder of Christianity, not Jesus. A certain Michael H. Hart in America wrote a book called The Top 100. The most influential men in history from Adam up to now. And in his list of 100 most influential men, he puts the Holy Prophet Muhammad number 1. And he gives his Lord and Master Jesus Christ number 3. Because he reasoned that this position for the founding of Christianity, Jesus must share with Paul. Therefore, he goes number 3. That's the reasoning of Hart. Michael H. Hart. But now, let us go and ask Jesus. I am going to quote you Jesus, the words of Jesus himself, as they are recorded in your holy book, the Bible. The Jews were not satisfied with the claims that he had made, that he was their Messiah. The Messiah that they were waiting for centuries, had come. So they come to him, according to the Gospel of St. Matthew, I'm quoting, chapter 12, verses 38 to 40. They come to him and they say, Master, in the Hebrew language, they said, Rabbi, learned man, priest, bishop like. Master, we would have a sign of thee. We want you to show us a miracle. Sign, not a road sign. Stop, yield or go. A sign, a miracle from you. We want you to show something astonishing, like walking on the water, flying in the air like a bird, giving life to the dead. Do something, man, that will convince us that you are the man we are waiting for, something supernatural. But he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. What a horrible thing. This man is speaking the words of God, they are not interested. He's feeding thousands with a few pieces of fish and a few pieces of bread, they're not interested. He's giving life to the dead by God's permission, they're not interested. They want him to do something like flying in the air, do something, man. So he addresses them, an evil and adulterous generation. They're looking for miracles. And there shall no sign be given unto it, no sign, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. No sign but one, the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the earth. The only sign he gave was this. He didn't say, blind Bartimaeus, I healed him. You know that woman with issues, bleeding continuously, she touched me and she got healed. You know that fig tree I dried up from its very roots. You know those 2,000 pigs I destroyed. Nothing at all. The only sign I'm prepared to give you is the sign of Jonah, the miracle of Jonah. He puts all his eggs in one basket, in modern parlance. Now what was this sign? If you examine his words, word for word, I want Brother Paul to come forward and tell us that I have skipped or added a word or two. What was the sign of Jonah? I said, go to the book of Jonah. It's a very difficult book to find, I admit, because it happens to be one page. In this vast volume of 1,000 pages, one page, to find a single page is difficult. But you don't have to go to the book of Jonah. Every Sunday school child, a child has gone to Sunday school. Every Christian and non-Christian seems to know the story about Jonah and the whale. We are told, and it will not take you 2 minutes to go through that book, but you don't have to do that. If we go to the book of Jonah, we find that this man Jonah was sent, commissioned by God to go to Nineveh, a city of 100,000 people. But instead of going to Nineveh, he goes to Joppa. And he takes a boat and is running away because he's despondent that these materialistic people, worldly people, Jesus would have described as a wicked and adulterous generation. They will not listen to me. They will make a mockery of what I have to say. So he is running away to Joppa. And at sea, there is a storm. And according to the superstitions of these people, anybody who runs away from his duty creates such a turmoil at sea. So they began questioning who could be responsible. Jonah realizes that as a prophet of God, he is a soldier of God. And as a soldier of God, he had no right to do things presumptuously. He must listen to instructions, commands. But he is doing things on his own. So he volunteers that I am the guilty man. And God is after my blood. He wants to kill me, and in the process he's going to sink the boat. So it'll be better for you if you take me and you throw me overboard. To save your skins, you throw me overboard. They are a goodly people. They say, no man, you are such a good man. Perhaps you want to commit suicide, and you want us to help you to accomplish suicide. He says, we have our own system of finding out right from wrong, and that is what is called by casting of lots. Like the tossing of the coin, head or tail. And according to that system of theirs, it came to the turn of Jonah, that Jonah was the guilty man. So they took him and they threw him overboard. This is what the book of Jonah says. Now I'm posing a question to you, my dear brothers and sisters. But before you answer, I want to make it easy for you that you do not slip. This man Jonah volunteered. He says, throw me overboard. And when a man volunteers, you don't have to strangle him before throwing. You agree? When a man volunteers, you don't have to spear him before throwing. You don't have to break his arm or limb in a karate grip before throwing. Look, the man volunteers, he says, throw me. So when they threw him overboard, was he dead or was he alive? I want a response from you. Was he dead or was he alive? Alive. You don't get anything for that. It was such a simple question. The storm subsides. Perhaps it was a coincidence. A fish comes and gobbles him up. Dead or alive? Alive. From the fish's belly he prays to God for help. Do dead men pray? Do dead people pray? No. So he was alive. 3 days and 3 nights the fish takes him around the ocean. Dead or alive? Alive. On the 3rd day vomits him on the seashore. Dead or alive? Alive. It's a miracle. Look, this is a miracle. It's a miracle of miracles. When you throw a man into a raging sea, you ought to die. He didn't die. It's a miracle. A fish gobbles a man. He ought to die. He didn't die. It's a miracle. 3 days and 3 nights, suffocation and heat in the whale's belly. He ought to die. He didn't die. It's a miracle. You agree? If he died, no miracle. He didn't die. It's a miracle, a miracle, a miracle. And the only miracle he says I'm giving you is that of Jonah. What happened to Jonah is going to happen to me. I'm asking you now, you my Christian brother, how was Jesus in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights? According to the churches, according to you 1,200 million Christians, how was Jesus in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights? Dead or alive? Dead, dead, dead. I want to ask you again now, in your language, is that like Jonah or unlike Jonah? Unlike Jonah. In your language, it says, want suas Jonah, drie dae en drie nachten in die beek van de grootvis was, zo zal de zin van de mens 3 dae en 3 nachten in de hart van de aard wees. Suas Jonah. Is that suas Jonah or nie suas Jonah? Yes. Now, if you allow me, I'd like to ask you, who is speaking the truth? Jesus Christ or these 1,200 million Christians? You tell me. Either Jesus is a liar or 1,200 million Christians are liars. The choice is yours. I don't want to hear from you. I want you to make up your own minds. Who is speaking the truth, Jesus or the Christians? Jesus said, I'll be like Jonah. The Christians say he's unlike Jonah. I want you to explain that. My brother, explain to the people, in which way is he like Jonah? Jonah is alive, Jesus is dead, unlike. But the learned man, says the theologian, this is not what he was referring to. Actually, he was stressing the time factor. You know, he said, for as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights. He repeats the word 3 4 times. I said, look, there's nothing miraculous about a time factor. Whether the man was in the tomb for 3 hours or 3 days or 3 weeks, that is not a miracle. The miracle is that when you expect the man to be dead, he's alive. That's a miracle. He said, no. It's a time factor. See, drowning man clutches at straws. Drowning women do the same. Clutching at straws. He says, no, it's a time factor. I said, all right, let's agree with your time factor. When was he crucified? So the whole Christian world says Good Friday. In South Africa, it's a Goeie Vrydag. I said, what makes Good Friday good? So they say Christ died for our sins. That makes it good. So he was crucified on a Good Friday. I said, of course. Every Christian nation, Britain, France, Germany, America, South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, every Christian nation commemorates Good Friday. Because they say Christ died for the sins on that holy day, Good Friday. I said, when was he crucified? They say Friday afternoon. Actually, brother, I feel he slept when it says Friday morning. You know, if you take into account a midnight trial. Midnight trial they had. Early in the morning they take him to Pilate. From Pilate passes the buck on to Herod. Herod passes the buck back again to Pilate. And the trial takes place, and all the carrying the cross to Golgotha, 5 miles out of town. Look, by 9 o'clock, I beg your pardon. The Bible says, the scripture says, at the 6th hour. 6th hour is 12 o'clock. 6th hour, when you say 6th hour, means from sunrise, the 6th hour. 12 o'clock. And the 9th hour he's supposed to have given up the ghost, means 3 o'clock. However, some say 3 hours, some say 6 hours. I will not argue. I will not argue. But I was just drawing your attention that it is not 9 o'clock in the morning. Even in films they can't do that fast. So, he was supposed to be on the cross, and before evening the Jews, they were in a hurry to put him up on the cross. Because of the general public, they were afraid that once the general public came to find out that the hero was in danger, there would be a riot, a revolt. So before that happens, quick, hurry, midnight trial, which doesn't happen in Jewry. Early in the morning, Pilate, as if Pilate had nothing else to do, he was waiting with folded legs, we Eastern people do. And Herod was waiting with folded legs. And back again to Pilate, he was waiting with folded legs, had nothing else to do, these guys. Imagine, they had nothing else to do, they're just waiting. However, they managed to put him up on the cross, and in the afternoon, at the 9th hour, they say he gave up the ghost, means he died. And Joseph of Arimathea, he goes to Pontius Pilate, and he wants to take the body. But we will not go into details here at this stage. This body, by evening, they give Jesus a burial part. And according to the description given, 100-pound weight of medicals were put around him. 100 pounds. And then the winding sheets. It's already evening. By the time they finish with this job, whatever they were out to do, whatever they were out to achieve, it's already evening. So they put him into the sepulchre by the evening. And according to Christian records, according to your records, according to your claim, Friday evening he's supposed to be in the grave. Watch my fingers. Friday evening he's supposed to be in the grave. Saturday day he's supposed to be in the grave. You see, Jesus divided the day into day part and night part. Therefore I'm doing the same. Friday evening he's supposed to be in the grave. Saturday day, he's supposed to be in the grave. Saturday night, he's supposed to be in the grave. Sunday morning, the first day of the week, when Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb is empty. I'm asking, how many days and how many nights? But to help you again, you know I said supposed. You know why I said supposed 3 times? Because he could have come out Friday night. But because the Bible doesn't say, I won't say it. How many days and how many nights? Can you see from there? Can you see from there? How many days and how many nights? Look at this. Right, you must be a Muslim who's giving the answer. Because I have shown this to Christian learned men, and when they look between my two hands, and they can't make up their minds. Because I said, for us, Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights. Once was Jonah, 3 da and 3 nachta. Ngobuba chengo Jonah. Why says siswini? Sem komo, izin sugu, ezin tatu, nobu sugu, obu tatu. Three and three. I said, does that look the same to you? Look. It's 2 and 1. He said 3 and 3. I said, he failed again. Look, if I was a Jew, I believe that Jesus was the Messiah because the Holy Quran testifies to that fact. But if I was a Jew, I can't accept him as my Messiah. The only sign he gave, and he failed twice. Maybe Brother Paul will be able to explain that. This is the sign he gave, and I say he fulfilled it. He didn't die. Sunday morning we were talking about just now. The first day of the week, Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb. I'm asking, why did she go there? So the gospel records that she went to anoint him. Brother made a joke out of this massage business. You see, This word anoint in Hebrew and Arabic comes from the root word masaha, which means to rub, to massage, to anoint. Now you tell me, what do you want to go and massage or anoint or rub a dead, rotten body after 3 days? Because within 3-hour rigor mortis sets in. The hardening of the cells, the body starts fermenting from within. In 3 days' time, the body is rotted from the inside. Such a rotting body, whatever you do, whether you do it softly or you do it any other way, the body falls to pieces. What does this woman want to do with a dead, rotten body after 3 days? He says she went to anoint him. She goes to the tomb and she finds the stone is removed and the winding sheet's inside. That's the record. I'm asking, why was the stone removed and why were the winding sheets unwound? Because for a resurrected body, you don't have to remove the stone to come out. For a resurrected body, you don't have to unwind the winding sheets to move. That's the need of this physical body. This physical body can't come out with the stone in place, and it can't move with the winding sheets on. It's the need of a living body, not of a resurrected body. Because, as a poet says, stone walls do not a prison make, no iron bars a cage for the spirit. No walls and no bars can hold back a spirit. This body can be held back. So she starts to cry. It's an anticlimax to what she had expected. She was looking for a live person. When she goes there, he's not there. She's disappointed. Jesus was watching her from wherever he was, not from heaven, but from this earth. You see, this tomb was a privately owned property of Joseph of Arimathea, a very rich, influential Jew who had carved out of a rock a big roomy chamber. Our brother had very beautifully illustrated it in the front of his magazine. That cave, the tomb, with that rolling stone. Yes, on the cover. A very simple but true picture of what had happened. And they get worried about who moved the stone. I gave you a book answering that. Look at this. A stone. The Bible says in 2 places, in Matthew and Mark, that Joseph of Arimathea alone, one man, he put the stone in place. One man put the stone in place. I'm asking, why can't 2 guys roll it off? If one fellow can put it on, why can't Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus remove it? But it doesn't occur to them. They need an angel from heaven to come down to move this. Look at this. One man put in place, but God had to send his angels to remove it. It's an anticlimax to what she expected. She starts to cry. Now Jesus is watching her. He's coming up to her. He comes up to her and he says, I'm quoting. He comes up to her and he says, I'm quoting. Says, woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? Vrouw, waarom ween jij? Wie zoek jij? She, supposing him to be the gardener. Zij het gedink dat die tuinier was. She's supposing him to be the gardener. Says, sir, if you have taken him hence, if you have taken him away from here, tell me, where have you laid him? To rest, to relax, to recuperate. Not, where have you buried him? He says, waar je hem neergelegd. Not waar je hem begraven hebt. So that I shall take him away. I, alone, one woman, she wants to take him away. I'm asking, what does she want to do with her dead, rotten body? Take him where? Bury him. I said, who dug the grave? One woman carrying him like that American superwoman. We have the Superman 3 coming now. This is an American superwoman. Can you imagine this frail Jewess carrying Jesus Christ at least 160 pounds? Wait, not like me, 200. He is at least 160 pounds, muscular young man. With 100-pound weight of medicine makes him 260. And this woman's going to carry him like a bundle of straw and take him where? Bury him as a who dug the grave. To carry is one thing, is superhuman. But to bury, I say, she'll have to dump him in a hole. Does it make sense? No. What she want to do with him? Jesus Christ is talking to her. The joke has gone too far. So he says, Mary. The way he said, Mary, she recognized that this is Jesus. So she turned herself and said unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Jesus sent to her, and she wants to grab him. She wants to pay respects to him. So he says, touch me not. He says, rat meni anni, touch me not. I said, why not? Is he a bundle of electricity, a dynamo, that if she touches him, she'll get electrocuted? No. Then why not? I said, because it hurts. He's been through an ordeal. She just recognizes the man that is Jesus, and out of respect, we Eastern people do, we want to embrace our learned men, our dear ones, our elders. She might want to grab him, kiss him by the hand. It'll hurt him. So he says, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended unto my Father. I say, is she blind? Can't she see the man is standing there beside her? What does it mean, I'm not gone up when he's here? I am saying in the language of the Jew, in the idiom of the Jew, he's saying, I am not dead yet. This is it. She's expecting a live person, and he's telling that he's alive, he's not dead. Don't touch me because it hurts. I say, give another reason. And the disciples wouldn't believe. This is the anomaly. This is the irony of the whole thing. When Mary, Mark chapter 16 verse 11 I'm quoting, and when they had heard that he was alive from Mary Magdalene, and had been seen of her, that Mary Magdalene says, I saw him with my own eyes. Mark 16:11, please check up. Believed not. They didn't believe. This is it. They didn't believe. Because they knew that no dead person comes back. If she was talking about a ghost, that I had seen the ghost of Jesus, they would have believed. They knew that this spirit's going to trees and the spirit's going to pigs. But this man coming back from the dead, physical, same, body, same, everything. So no, they did not believe. Walking to Emmaus, his two disciples, walking with him, he's talking to them, and they don't recognize him. He's telling them about the happenings of the previous 3 days, and they can't recognize him. When they reach Emmaus, they invite him for food, for dinner, and they sit at the table. And when they started to eat, the manner in which he break bread, the eyes were opened. Now, please don't tell me that they were walking with eyes closed those 5 miles. What it means is in the language, the Eastern language, metaphorical language, that they recognize the man. And when they recognize him, he vanished. Now, please don't tell me he did the Indian rope trick. This is the impression that people are giving us, that he did the Indian rope trick, he vanished. Vanish means he went out of sight. He went away. He didn't go into thin air. These disciples, they rush up to that upper room where they had the Last Supper to tell the others, this is, we have seen Jesus. He was with us. He sat down at the table and we were eating together. The manner in which he blessed it, we recognize that is our master. They say, we will not believe. They're not prepared to believe. And in walks Jesus, the doors being shut. Exactly what the Bible says. And in walks Jesus. John doesn't say he oozed from the bottom of the door or through the keyhole, like a ghost we see in films sometimes. You know how they do? The genie materializing out of a bottle. We have seen it in the films. No. John doesn't say anything like that. The doors were shut. And in walks Jesus. And he says, peace be unto you. I'm quoting from Luke chapter 24, verse 36. It's a Frida Fayala. It's a Shalom Alaikum in Hebrew. He says, Salam Alaikum, peace be unto you. Same. Shalom, Salam. But they were terrified and frightened. This is what Luke tells us. He was not an eyewitness. He was not there. Brother Paul says that he must have been a Gentile. Be as it may. He was not there. But he's testifying that they were affrighted. I say, why were they affrighted? Because, Luke says, they thought he was a spirit. That's why. They thought he was a spirit. I'm asking, did he look like a spirit? And I haven't come across a single Christian yet born again who tells me that he looked like a spirit. When they tell you that he looked like a spirit, ask them, what does a spirit look like? 100%. Everybody says, no, he didn't look like a spirit. Then I said, why should they think the man is a spirit when he didn't look like one? No answer. I said, the reason is that the disciples of Jesus, they had heard from hearsay that the master was hanged on the cross. They had heard from hearsay that he had given up the ghost. In other words, his spirit had come out, he had died. They had heard from hearsay that now he's dead and buried for 3 days. All that knowledge was from hearsay. Because Mark chapter 14 verse 50, I'm quoting, he says that all his disciples forsook him and fled. All. To had almal hum farlat and khaflah. Bamshia bon ke babalega. I'm asking you, Englishman, does all mean all in your language? You Afrikaner, does almal mean almal in your language? You Zulu, does bonke means bonke in your language? Of course it does. That means they were not there. All the knowledge is from hearsay. So if on hearsay knowledge you know about a man who's dead and buried for 3 days, you expect him to be stinking in his grave. Such a person, when you see, naturally you're terrified. Naturally. So Jesus wants to assure them that is not what they're thinking. So he says, Keik na me hand and me futa. He said, behold my hands and my feet. I'm quoting. Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself and the same fellow man. What's wrong with you? What are you afraid of me for? He said, handle me and see. Fool aan me and cake. Want ach jy sit nie vlees en bene soos julle sien dat ek het nie. For a spirit has no flesh and bones as you see me have. This is Jesus talking, not Paul, not Luke. Jesus is supposed to be talking this. A spirit has no flesh and bones as you see me have. Can't you see? I got flesh and bones. So if I got flesh and bones, in that case, I'm not a spirit, I'm not a ghost, I'm not a spook. I said, is that what it means in your language, you Englishman? And he said, yes.
Mr. Deedat, time.
Oh, you didn't give me the notice, 5 minutes. You gave Brother Paul.
You didn't ask us to. He's my moderator. Your moderator is supposed to keep your time.
No, we told... let's... No. Okay. We will carry on the next inning. There's a misunderstanding. It's quite important. Mr. Chairman and brethren, I'm not here to teach Brother Paul about the rules of debates. You see, I feel that it was his duty to explain the term crucified at the very beginning because he started the meeting. Now, crucified to every Christian means to kill by hanging or impaling on the cross. Crucified means to kill. This week, we read that in America, a man on the death row for 10 years, he was electrocuted, which meant that he was killed by electric shock. At the same time, in South Africa, in Pretoria, certain criminals were hanged, which means they were killed by hanging. One of them was reprieved. So hanged means to kill by hanging. Electrocution means to kill with that electric shock. Crucify means to kill by hanging or impaling on the cross. Now the Holy Quran says, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ. They didn't kill him in any way, nor did they crucify him, kill him by crucifixion. They didn't kill him this way or that way, in any way. They didn't kill him at all. Now, this crucifixion, it was difficult for a person to explain what happens if a man is taken onto the cross. If. Because the man says it has happened, so let's examine your witnesses. We are examining the witnesses. These are not eyewitnesses in the first place. These are statements made after the event. They call it vaticinium ex eventu. Taylor, in his commentary on the Gospel of St. Mark, he said these are ideas written after the event, just to try to fit the glove. But however, we said, look, let's leave them as they are. If you say these things happen, let's examine what actually happened. What was the result of this happening? But today in this age, this year, 1983, we seem to be getting answers to so many things, words which we didn't know. Now we are going to have to find words for them. There is no word in the English language where you can say the man was taken to the hangman's noose, the rope was pulled, but he didn't die. One verb. Instead of saying hanged, you don't say unhanged. What happened? There's no word in English, no verb. A man taken to the cross. Going through all the process and the man doesn't die. 20 years later somebody shoots him and he dies. Or he meets with a road accident and he dies. What was his end? Would you say crucified? No. You say, man, he drowned or he died in a crash. But now, you said these are hypothetical things that I'm advancing. Not at all. Today, this year, 1983, in Newcastle, an Afrikaner gentleman by the name of Peter van der Berg. The newspaper said, crucified. He went on the cross, he went through the process, nails were put through him, he was crucified. Peter van der Berg in Newcastle this year. He crucified man, hung on the cross for 20 minutes. In the Philippines, the people seem to be performing certain types of surgical miracles there with bare hands in the Philippines. The Filipino Christians have gone one up above all the Christians of the world. From 1964, they are having people at Easter time going on the cross and going through the process of crucifixion, exactly as Jesus supposed to have went through. This year, 7 persons, according to the newspaper reports, more in the hinterland, but 7 newspaper reports, 7 different persons went upon the cross to be crucified. They went on the cross. Out of those 7, 1 was a woman, crucified, but they're all living. They're all living today. One of them, the newspaper says, one man fainted. After being removed from the cross, he had to be carried to a waiting bus, one man. Another was up and smoking a cigarette as soon as his hands were bandaged. One of them, Mario Bactus, a 33-year-old vendor, had gone through the ritual for the 5th time, crucified 5 times, and 5 times crucified. And by the Bacala penitence, he promised to return next year. He said he has vowed. Look, this man has vowed to perform the crucifixions for 10 years after his wife recovered from cancer. Now he's going to do it for 10 years, means 10 times he will be crucified. And yet he might die in a car accident. What will you say? He died 10 times? What happened to him? I want to know now what verb. Brother Paul is an Englishman, I take it, if not an American. I want him to give me a verb to say, these people, were they crucified? This Van der Berg in Newcastle, was he crucified? What happened to him? Look, this is what the Quran says, that they didn't kill him and they didn't crucify him. And yes, what for? What for? The reason is that the soldiers came, and they broke the leg of the first. They broke the leg of the first. There were 3 persons crucified, supposed to be on the cross simultaneously. 3. So they came to the first, and because this crucifixion was at a time on the eve of the Sabbath, the Romans had a system. If they wanted a slow death, there was a system. If they wanted a quick death, fast death, they had a system. This was because of the Sabbath, a fast method was being used. And in the fast method of this so-called crucifixion, the person was tied with leather thongs. And you see in every drawing by great artists of the Christians, when they portray the other 2, they are not nailed. But you see the hands tied up, the other 2. Then why should Jesus be nailed? If there is a fast process, the fast process was that by tying the arms around the straight piece, and the feet were resting on a platform, like my hands are resting now, on a platform. But when the time came to kill the person, they broke the legs. They say crucifixion. They broke the legs. So they came to the first and saw the man is alive, crucifixion. They broke the legs. They came to the other, the man was alive, crucifixion. They broke the legs. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was dead already, they break not his legs. This is what the scriptures say. Now this was, the Christians say, a fulfillment of prophecy from the book of Psalms, that not a bone of him be broken. Now, if this is the fulfillment of prophecy, the only time it can help anybody is when the person is alive. For a dead man, whether you saw his bones to pieces or you smashed them to smithereens, makes no difference. If the person is alive, it makes sense. But instead, and saw that he was dead already, I'm asking, what does it mean? And he saw. Because in Grootskeur Hospital, in Cape, where Chris Barnard operates, a white woman was certified dead and put into the mortuary. Next morning she came out alive. And it's happening every day in the world. Every day. People are certified dead and they're coming back to life again and again. I give you some reference. Corpse winks at undertaker. Corpse. A person who's dead is winking at the undertaker. And it's a 79-year-old woman in Munich. She's winking at the undertaker. I'd like Brother Paul to comment on it. I'll give it to him. It's a man declared dead, begins to breathe again. Cape Town, a 21-year-old Cape Town fireman, he begins to breathe again. There is here a girl awaiting burial for 4 days, wakes up after 4 days. Here is a society in England of people who have come back from the dead. This is the picture is an undertaker's nightmare. I want our brothers to comment on this. People who have been certified dead, different people at different times, and they're coming back to life. Man certified dead in the Cape, in the hospital by 2 surgeons, and they want to take out his kidneys. As soon as they open the stomach, he starts beating, and he's back to life. Same thing happens in England. Certified by doctors, surgeons, by 2 surgeons before you can take an organ, and the man is coming back to life. Here is a Roman soldier looking from the bottom, and he saw. I said, what does it mean he saw? Did he have a stethoscope? What did he do? Nothing. He saw, and he was dead already. But instead, they lanced him on the side with a spear, and forthwith, John tells us, forthwith they came out blood and water, which is the sign of life. Forthwith means straight away. According to Dr. Primrose, the senior anesthetist of the Glasgow Royal Infirmary, he says this water and the blood was an account of scourging by staves, an upset of the nervous vessel. Encyclopedia Biblica, under Article Cross 960, says that Jesus was alive when the spear was thrust. Coming back to our upper room, Jesus is showing his hands and his feet. He's not telling man, you fools, I was dead and I'm now resurrected. Easy. Simple, easy thing to say. Instead he said, look, behold, look at me, it is me, myself. Same fellow. I'm not a resurrected body, I'm not a dead person who has come, I'm not a spirit, I'm not a ghost, I'm not a spook. What's wrong with you people? Why are you terrified? And they believed not for joy. Means they were overjoyed. And wondered, what happened, man? We thought the man was dead and buried. So he said, have you here any meat? Something to eat? And they gave him a piece of broiled fish and a honeycomb. And he took it and he ate in the very sight. To do what? To prove what? That he's alive. Everything that he's doing, he's showing that he's a man who has escaped death by the skin of his teeth. I had instead of 5 questions that Brother Paul was talking about, I've got 30 here. I've got 30 questions here. But instead now he wants me to get into this straitjacket, into that straitjacket. What for? I said, look, I give you 30 different reasons, from the Bible mostly, that Christ didn't die and there was no resurrection. And among them, number 1, Jesus was reluctant to die. And he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said, nothing. But now, he that had a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that had no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. Luke chapter 22, verses 35 to 38. This shows that he would not go down without fighting, because he wanted to remain alive. Number 2, he beseeched God for help. To what purpose? To rescue him from death, to remain alive. Number 3, God heard his prayers to keep him alive. Number 4, angel strengthened him in the hope of being saved alive. Number 5, Pilate finds him not guilty, that he desired Jesus to be kept alive. Number 6, Pilate's wife sees a dream in which he is told that no harm should come to this just man. Matthew chapter 27, verse 19, that he should be saved alive. Number 7, on the cross for only 3 hours. No man can die of crucifixion in so short a time. He was to be alive. Number 8, the other two on their respective crosses were alive. For the same period of time, Jesus too must be alive. Number 9, the Encyclopedia Biblica and the article Cross, column 960, says that Jesus was alive when the spear was thrust. Alive. Number 10, forthwith, meaning straight away. But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith, straight away, immediately, came there out blood and water. John chapter 19, verse 34. The water and the blood was a sure sign of life. Dr. Primrose, a senior anesthetist of the Glasgow Royal Infirmary, says that the water and the blood was on account of an upset in the nervous vessels on account of the scourging by staves. Forthwith implies that Jesus was alive. Number 11, legs not broken as a fulfillment of prophecy. Legs of any use only if Jesus was alive. Number 12, thunder, lightning, eclipse, earthquake, all within 3 hours, to disperse the sadistic mob so that the hands of mercy could act to save Jesus from an untimely death, all to keep him alive. Number 13, the Jews doubted his death. They said, command therefore that the sepulchre be made secure until the 3rd day, lest the last error be worse than the first. Matthew chapter 27, verse 64. The Jews suspected that Jesus had escaped death on the cross. They suspected that he was alive. Number 14, Pilate marvels to hear that Jesus was dead. He knew from experience that no man should die so soon by crucifixion. Hence, Pilate also suspected that Jesus was alive. Number 15, big, roomy chamber. According to Jim Bishop, a Christian authority, the sepulchre was 5 feet wide by 7 feet high by 15 feet deep, with the ledgers inside. And further, A, it was close at hand, B, it was a big and airy chamber, and C, willing hands of the secret disciples were at the ready, as if providence was out to keep Jesus alive. Number 16, stone and shroud removed. This only necessary if Jesus was alive. Number 17, report on the winding sheets. German scientists who carried out experiments on the Shroud of Turin said that the heart of Jesus had not stopped beating, that he was alive. Number 18, ever in disguise. Never came out into the open before the Jews, always in disguise. Not necessary if he had conquered death. Disguise only necessary if he was alive. Number 19, forbade Mary Magdalene to touch him. Jesus said unto her, touch me not. John chapter 20, verse 17. Touch me not, for this reason, that it would hurt, because he was alive. Number 20, not yet ascended, for I am not yet ascended unto my Father. John chapter 20, verse 17. In the language of the Jew, in the idiom of the Jew, he's saying, I am not dead yet, that I am alive. Number 21, Mary not afraid on recognizing Jesus, because she had seen signs of life when the body of Jesus was taken down from the cross. She was looking for a Jesus who was very much alive. Number 22, his disciples all terrified in the upper room, because all the knowledge about Jesus was from hearsay. They thought that they were seeing a ghost when they saw him. For all his disciples forsook him and fled, says Mark chapter 14, verse 50. Therefore, they could not believe that he was alive. Number 23, ate food again and again. 1, and it came to pass, as he sat eating with them at Emmaus. Luke chapter 24, verse 30. 2, and they gave him a piece of broiled fish and an honeycomb, and he took it and did eat before them. Luke chapter 24, verse 43. And 3, even to us who did eat and drink with him, with Jesus. Acts chapter 10, verse 41. Food only necessary if he was alive. Number 24, never showed himself to the Jews, because he had escaped death by the skin of his teeth, because he was alive. Number 25, he took only short trips. 1, around the tomb. 2, on the way to Emmaus. 3, at the upper room. 4, 8 days later, back at the upper room, because he was not resurrected, but was alive. Number 26, testimony of the 2 men. 2 men that stood by told the women, why seek ye the living among the dead? Luke chapter 24, verses 4 and 5. In effect, the women were told, you do not look for a living person in a tomb or a morgue or a mortuary, that he is not dead but alive. Number 27, testimony of the angels. And when they found not his body, they came, saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Luke chapter 24, verse 23. Not resurrected, but alive. Number 28, the testimony of Mary Magdalene. And they, the disciples, when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, Mary Magdalene, they believed not. Mark chapter 16, verse 11. Why would they not believe? Because they are being confronted by the evidence of a physical living Jesus. Alive, alive, not resurrected, spiritualized Jesus, not spook, nor ghost, nor spirit, but a Jesus all flesh and blood, alive. Number 29, Peter testifies, whom God had raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. Acts chapter 2, verse 24. Number 30, his own testimony. In the only sign he gave to the Jews to prove his bona fide, he said that his miracle would be the miracle of Jonah. Matthew chapter 12, verses 38 to 40. Jonah was alive in the whale's belly for 3 days and 3 nights. Therefore, Jesus must also be alive as he had himself foretold, according to the scriptures.
Not once while he walked this earth did he say, I was dead and now I'm alive. Not once. I'm not talking about dreams. This John had a dream. So in his dream he saw and he heard. I'm not talking about dreams. I'm talking about solid terra firma where Jesus walked this earth. Now if I may begin with this question, let me tell you that Christ, number one, I said, look, the man was reluctant to die. He had come reluctant to die. He didn't want to die. In that upper room where they had the Last Supper, before his alleged crucifixion, he's telling his disciples to arm themselves. He said, you remember I sent you out on a mission of preaching and healing. And I told you then you must carry nothing with you. No sticks, no staff, no purse, nothing. Did you lack anything? They said nothing. But he says, but now I tell you, I'm quoting, but now I tell you that those of you who have got no swords must sell your garments and buy them. I'm asking you, what do people do with swords? A man who's come to die. From the foundations of the earth, there was a contract between father and son, that in the year 4000 after Adam, my son, you will go into the world to redeem mankind. Look, this man is preparing to fight. He's telling his people to arm themselves. And one of the disciples, I'm quoting, Luke chapter 22, verse 35, 38, it says, and they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. He's got them. They have swords already. And he takes them to Gethsemane. At Gethsemane, he puts them there, 8 at the gate. I said, what did he take them to Gethsemane for? To pray? Why did he take them 5 miles out of town to pray? When he could have prayed in that upper room, when he'd gone to the temple of Jerusalem, a stone's throw away from where he was. No. They didn't go to pray. He puts 8 at the gate, and he says, sit here and watch with, tarry here and watch with me. And he takes with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, armed to the hilt. And he makes an inner line of defense in that courtyard. And he says, tarry here and watch with me, while I go and pray yonder. Pray what? Asking God for help. And the Bible tells us, being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat was as if it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And Paul tells us that God heard his prayer. In that he feared. God heard him. I said, what does it mean, God heard his prayer? It means God answered his prayer. God hears doesn't mean that God was deaf at any time. If God hears, that means he answered. And an angel came and strengthened him in the hope that God is going to save him. Now we look at this story, the whole thing, the whole setup. The man is prepared for a fight. He's preparing to have a showdown with the Jews. But the Jews were cleverer than what he thought, his own people. They go and bring Roman soldiers. Instead of fighting Jews against Jews, now they bring Roman soldiers. And against trained men, his disciples would have been slaughtered to pieces, cut to pieces. So Peter, you know the impetuous Peter, he takes the sword and he questions Jesus as Master, shall we smite them with the sword? We, more than one. They had swords there in the garden. What were they doing with swords? But before Jesus can answer, he'd already slashed off the ear.
5 minutes.
He slashes off one of the ear of one of the servants of the priest. Jesus puts it back and he says, he who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. In other words, put down your swords, otherwise you all will perish. But didn't he know that when he told them to arm themselves? He knew. But the situation changes, the man changes. And every little happening that is taking place, the man is eating food again and again. That is the need. This is not the need of this physical body. He said the spirit has no flesh and bones. One question I posed to Brother Paul. I said, in your language, Brother Paul, I want you to tell these people that when a man says a spirit has no flesh and bones, tell me that in your language it means a spirit has flesh and bones. Because if he was resurrected, he would be a spiritual body. And this is on the authority of Jesus himself. Jesus says that the resurrected bodies are spiritualized. Where does he say such thing? I said in the same Luke chapter 20 verse 36 about that Jewess. You remember? A Jewess had 7 husbands according to Jewish practice. It was one by one. One brother died, no children, so the second fellow took her to wife. And he failed, then the third fellow, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh. 7 guys had this one woman, one after another. But there was no problem, because it was one by one. Now they come to Jesus and say, look, that woman is dead. The husbands are dead. At the resurrection, when these 7 guys wake up simultaneously, and they see this woman, they will say, Mefro, my wife. And the 7 guys will be fighting for this one woman in the hereafter, because they all had her here. If they had her here, they'll want to have her there. So they want to know from Jesus which guy is going to have her on the other side. In answer to that, Jesus says, and this is the crux of the whole thing. He says, neither shall they die anymore. In other words, once they are resurrected, they will be immortalized. This is a mortal body which has got its mortal needs. Food, shelter, clothing, sex, rest. Without these things, mankind perishes. That body, immortal body. No food, no shelter, no clothing, no sex, no rest. For they are equal unto the angels. In other words, that they will be angelized. They will be spiritualized. They will be spiritual bodies. They will be spirits. The resurrected bodies will be spirits. For they are equal unto the angels and the children of God. Such are the children of the resurrection. Spirits. And he says, a spirit has no flesh and bones, as you see me have. He's telling you, I am not resurrected. Give me food to eat. And he acts. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Much have been made of the testimonies that we have before us. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The gospel writers. But in any court of law, in any civilized country, we could have had these arguments thrown out in just 2 minutes. You see, these testimonies, in the first place, these out of the 4 gospel writers, the canonical gospels, Mark and Luke were not even the disciples of Jesus, not one of the 12. Number 2, Mark tells us, he testifies that all his disciples forsook him and fled. Despite the fact that Brother Paul keeps on repeating that they were there, not one of them wrote as an eyewitness to the happenings. And the Gospels, they begin, I checked up the American Standard Version as the Brother Paul was holding, whether it was any different from mine. The headings begin, the Gospel according to St. Matthew, the Gospel according to St. Mark, the Gospel according to St. Luke, the Gospel according to St. John. I have been asking learned men, what is this according? You see, it means that Matthew didn't write Matthew, Mark didn't write Mark, Luke didn't write Luke, and John didn't write John. Not one of these documents have been attested by any one of them. Therefore, it is guessed, it is surmised that these are the authors. In Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, we read that while Jesus was going forth into the way, he saw a tax collector called Matthew. And he, Jesus, came up to him, Matthew, and said, "Follow me, Jesus." And he, Matthew, followed him, Jesus. I'm asking, who's writing that? Matthew? Could Matthew have written that? That he saw a tax collector? He didn't say he saw me. He came up to me and said, "Follow me," and I followed him. But he says, no, it's all in the third person. Somebody else is writing. And J.B. Phillips, a paid servant of the Anglican Church, he has written the Gospels in modern English, in which he says that early tradition ascribed this Gospel to the Apostle Matthew. But scholars nowadays almost all reject this view. In other words, Matthew didn't write Matthew. The author, whom we may still conveniently call Matthew, like I'm doing, conveniently, Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, conveniently, instead of saying the first gospel of the New Testament, chapter 9, verse 9, I say Matthew 9, 9. For convenience sake, has plainly drawn on the mysterious cue, which might have been a collection of oral tradition. He has used Mark's gospel freely. In the language of the school teacher, he has been copying wholesale from Mark. And this Mark was a 10-year-old boy when Jesus walked this earth. Imagine, an eyewitness supposed to be Matthew, a disciple of Jesus, he goes and copies a 10-year-old boy who wasn't there. And you say he was an eyewitness. Luke was an eyewitness. And the brother says perhaps he was a Gentile. When did the first Gentile that accepted Christianity? Was Cornelius. Where was Luke? What does he say? He said, no, perhaps, surmise, it is supposed. I said, look, in any court of law, documents of this nature would be thrown out of court in 2 minutes. I said, twice in 2 minutes. When we take into account that Mark tells us that all his disciples forsook him and fled. All. I'm asking, doesn't all mean all in your language? I'm not getting the answer. You must tell me that all doesn't mean all. The spirit has no flesh and bones. I said, tell me that spirit has flesh and bones. Sign, miracle. I'm telling you, a miracle. 3 days and 3 nights is not a miracle. What's miraculous about 3 days and 3 nights? The miraculous thing about Jonah, any person with a child, even a child in the kindergarten, will tell you that it's a miracle for a man to be thrown into a raging sea and he doesn't die. That's a miracle. Not 3 days and 3 nights. What? What about 3 days and 3 nights? Whether you are in a room, or in a safe, or in a palace, what? 3 days and 3 nights. That doesn't make a miracle. And he says, for as Jonah was Jonah, like Jonah. I'm asking, how was Jonah? You just escaped the whole thing and said 3 days and 3 nights. And now anyhow, hook or by crook, you say, now you prove 3 and 3. Cool. I'm saying, look at this. I said, there is not a master mathematician. Einstein, if he was alive, and if he was a Christian, he was a Jew. If he was a Christian and you brought him to your aid, I said, he can't help you. He'll never be able to get 3 and 3. Therefore now, the Christian world, like the authors of the Plain Truth, Armstrong family, they say it was a Good Wednesday, not a Good Friday. Why don't you say that? I'm prepared to accept that it was a Good Wednesday when Jesus was crucified, not on a Good Friday. Why do they say that now? You see, the thing is this now, when you get cornered, you want to know now, why don't you say this, why don't you say that? I said, look, Jesus, whether he was dead or alive. I say both. He was dead and he was alive. Which way? I said, look, exactly like Adam. You remember Adam? God Almighty tells him that the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Satan says, thou shalt not surely die. Imagine, God says, apparently speaking a lie, because Adam lived for 930 years. Imagine God lying. Could God lie? No, that is the devil's prerogative. What happened? I said, look, God is speaking the truth and Satan is also speaking the truth. How can both be true? I said, I tell you why. God Almighty is speaking about spiritually, you'll be forsaken by me. You'll be taken away from me spiritually. The day you eat, you disobey, I disown you. So spiritually, you are dead. Satan says, you will surely live, you will not die, meaning in his progeny. We here, after 6,000 years supposed to be according to Christian calculation, we are still here. That means Adam is still living in us. Wow. Adam is alive. So, we say he was dead spiritually because he was forsaken by God. He was alive physically because we are here today. After 933 years he died. Jesus Christ on the cross, according to the Christian scripture says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? To be forsaken of God is to be dead. Physically the man is alive, spiritually he is dead. This is what they are talking about, that dead. Physically the man is eating food, spiritualized bodies, spiritualized persons, resurrected bodies. For such are the children of the resurrection, spirits. He said a spirit has no flesh and bones. I am not what you are thinking. You are thinking I have come back from the dead. I am not that. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, you see, to the question, Christ crucified, hoax or history? That was the question. We say is the mightiest hoax in history. 1,200 million people are being taken for a ride on a cross. Listen to Jesus. He says, the way of salvation is, he said, verily, verily, I say unto you, except your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, ye shall by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. There's no heaven for you, my followers, unless you are better than the Jew. And how can you be better than the Jew? By not keeping the laws and the commandments. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I said, let us go back to Christ. Listen to what he says. And if you follow him, if you listen to him, his teachings, his words, not Paul, not Peter, not James. Listen to Jesus. And when you listen to Jesus, you won't be able to help being a Muslim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. These and many more arguments are further and fully expounded in the book Christ Crucified, Hoax or History, to prove that the crucifixion of Christ is the mightiest hoax in history. This book, Christ Crucified, Hoax or History, as well as every other book listed on the reverse of all our publications, are available to all, absolutely free of charge, anywhere in the world, by surface mail. As we have no surface mail contact with the Arab world, we trust that our brethren there will send us postage money in American dollars to defray expenses. Though the literature listed is absolutely free, we do appreciate any help our brethren can give us from the zakat, lillah, and donations. We have even used for interest money. Please phone, call, or write to the Islamic Propagation Center, 45 47 49 Madrasa Arcade, Durban, 4001, Republic of South Africa. The books listed: 1, what the Bible says about Muhammad; 2, what was the sign of Jonah; 3, who moved the stone; 4, 50,000 errors in the Bible; 5, resurrection resuscitation; 6, Al-Quran, the ultimate miracle; 7, is the Bible God's word; 8, what is his name; 9, why J. Gilcrease, a Baptist Sunday school teacher, accepted Islam; 10, the God that never was, 11, Islam's answer to the racial problem, and 12, Christ in Islam, and now the latest, Christ crucified, hoax or history. Videotapes on the subject under discussion, Christ crucified, hoax or history, as well as on other topics are also available from the center on VHS and Betamax tapes. There are 25 rands each, posted anywhere in the world. 1 rand is equal to $1 American. Middle East countries to add $10 extra per videotape to cover airmail posting of order. Jazakallah. May Allah reward you.